we're talking about today, folks. Today on Knox Talks, Cryptids.
Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
It's showtime.
Mothman is primarily described as being roughly 6 feet tall, dark in color like smoke, or maybe even the night itself. Then you've got the impressive 7-foot fucking wingspan and 2 enormous glowing red eyes, man. Enough to drive a man insane! Sounds downright demonic, right? Mothman also has the habit of being a harbinger of dooms. Most famously, on December 15th of 1967, the Silver Star Bridge, which spanned over the Ohio River, snapped in half like a twig, and 46 poor fucks died as a direct result. Interesting to note is that sightings of the Mothman all but stopped immediately following the incident, which is of course what led most people to believe that Mothman was in fact connected to the incident to begin with. We'll of course cover that a little bit more later. So, there's only actually a handful of credible sightings or stories about Mothman. It is incredibly elusive, even better at hiding than Bigfoot. Essentially, the majority of stories boil down to people whom didn't want to give their names, just telling local reporters that they'd seen a creature with roughly Mothman descriptions, stalking around in a backyard or in a warehouse, or they'd catch some sighting of some motherfucker soaring through the sky like some sort of quiet nightmare. Quiet nightmare, that sounds like a great death metal group, doesn't it? Quiet nightmare! My neighbors hate me. Anyway, there are in fact many small town newspaper clippings detailing events surrounding Mothman, but there's very few actual recounts of what the hell the creature was actually doing, apart from the aforementioned stalking or gliding around like some sort of bat, or owl, or sandy crane. Yes, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but again, this is one of those cryptids where I am extraordinarily skeptical, so, you know. The first actual mention of Mothman comes from the Athens Messenger. The article entitled Winged Red Thing Chases Couples Across Countryside. It was written by Mary Heyer, and it actually ended up becoming the cornerstone of her career as a journalist. Her article began, "What stands 6 feet tall, has red wings, 2 big red eyes, 6 inches apart, and glides along behind an automobile at 100 miles an hour?" Now, really, if she wanted to make it sound impressive, she should have had it be in kilometers, which would be like, I don't know, 175% bullshit. Don't know? Well, neither do 4 Point Pleasant residents, who were chased by a weird man-like thing Tuesday night. Allow me to paint you an oral picture of the scene, if you will. A crescent moon hung in the ink-stained sky in October 1966, barely lighting the road to the abandoned munitions plant in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Faye DeWitt Laporte and her siblings were driving past the plant on their way home from a movie. She remembers a sudden thud as a creature with glowing red eyes dropped onto the hood of the car.
"We were scared, of course, yelling, 'Everybody, don't move,'
Laporte said.
Everybody, shut up. And the other two back there, bawling and crying back there, the younger ones, just shut up. We're just telling them to be quiet. Don't do anything to make the thing kick out the glass and come on through there.'"
How fucking terrifying. But it's still a mystifying experience. I mean, what the hell dropped down onto their fucking car? Like some bat out of hell? Meatloaf reference? Anybody? No? Too fucking old for that? Oh, fuck you! Laporte describes the creature as being roughly 6 feet tall and a shape like a man, but with glowing red eyes and down feathers all over its body.
I'm too sexy for my clothes, too sexy Mothman.
She said it crouched down and stared at them through the windows for about 5 minutes before taking flight.
He just jumped and opened up the prettiest, biggest wings you ever did see, and then just flew, and we could see the moon. And it was like a crescent moon. We could see it, and it just flew off, the poor said.
A woman of obviously many, many words. Although I don't know why I'm making her sound like a hick, but it was sure as hell a fun voice to use. Wasn't it, kids? Anyway, Laporte's brother went back to the area the next day, and she claims that the area was cordoned off by the military and police. The family never saw the Mothman again. But the Mothman continued to be seen by others in the area over the next year, and local news began to take notice. The couple in the front seats stated that they were racing through the pitch black of night, pulling about 100 miles per hour, and yet the creature was never really out of sight for more than a few moments, constantly following them through the sky, soaring like some sort of winged angel of death and doom. Teenagers, especially those who might be on substances, they get scared pretty easily, don't they? Side note, do you all know how fast 100 miles per hour is? That means that they were traveling roughly a mile every 45 seconds, and yet still this wicked winged fuck was keeping up with them like a well-trained hound, or like a cheetah of the skies. Yes, I know cheetahs don't fly, but it's the closest thing I can think of that actually can move 100 miles per hour, and y'all probably know what the hell it looks like. Yeah, that works. Later, the couples and police returned to the C.C. Lewis farm. A deputy said the thing was gone. The thing wasn't gone, it was just waiting for VHS to come out. Although now I realize, having made that joke, this was 10 years before the thing would come out, so... jokes on me. Later, the couples and police returned to the C.C. Lewis farm. A deputy said the thing was gone, but he found a strange pile of dust. I don't know what the hell that means. I've never known what the hell it means. I've looked through all sorts of crap, and I think dude found something that he thought was something. Strange pile of dust doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry. I usually wanted I wanted to keep the auspice going till the very end, but honestly, I find Mothman to be an interesting exercise in what is a tulpa. A tulpa, by the way, is it's an idea, I suppose you could say, and enough people believe in the tulpa so that the tulpa comes to be. And once the tulpa comes to be, like say the Men in Black or the Curse of Queen Anne's Revenge, Blackbird shit, or Blackbeard's vessel. Things like the Flying Dutchman is a real good example of a very well-known tulpa. You get the idea. In fact, some have said that Sasquatch may in fact be a tulpa. That essentially we believed it into existing, which is a fascinating idea, and I'm not really sure if that would make me happier or less happy. I don't know. But that's what a tulpa is, and I sort of think that that's actually what we're dealing with here, if we're being totally honest. I think that enough people heard this story and just saw something in the sky that in the moment they thought was this thing, and it came to be eventually in the mass consciousness. Weirder shit has happened. You'll see. We'll keep coming. Carry on. The Mothman is often associated with the 1967 collapse of the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant, Virginia, that killed 46 people. The 1975 novel, The Mothman Prophecies by John Keel, linked the two, and the story was later turned into a popular 2002 film of the same name, starring Richard Gere. Although calling The Mothman Prophecies popular would be more than a little generous, to be completely honest. In fact, I think in my hometown of Hayward, Wisconsin, myself and approximately one other motherfucker rented that movie in the span of a year, let me tell you. Theories of what the Mothman are vary, however. Some believe it is an alien. Others, a government experiment, as it was seen around a decommissioned military munitions plant. Wildlife biologist Robert L. Smith, a West Virginia University professor, told reporters that at the time he believed it was a large sandhill crane, a naturally occurring bird that happens to be naturally as tall as a grown human, with a 7-foot wingspan and big fucking red circles around its eyes. The Mothman's true nature, however, doesn't matter much to Laporte, who describes herself as a Christian, quote unquote, whoever She just knows that seeing the Mothman affirmed her belief that we are not alone in the universe. Hey, sugar tits, whatever it takes. Quote,
I knew there was something out there besides us. What? I don't know. I don't care to speculate. I say God's got everything in his hands, and he created everything. What's it to say he ain't got other life things out there on planets? They're all his. He created them.
the poet said. Well, as you all know by now, God has nothing to do with what takes place on this channel. So let's go ahead and get back to the Looney Tunes at hand.
Bitty, 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 bitty. That's all, folks.
The properties which truly brought Mothman to the masses were the books The Silver Bridge from 1970, written by the semi-famous paranormal author Gray Barker, and the significantly more famous book, The Mothman Prophecies, written by John Keel in 1975, the latter of which eventually inspired the movie of the same name starring Richard Gere. The movie does amazingly manage to briefly mention Indrid Cold, whom I personally think was an alien working with the Men in Black. The properties which truly brought Mothman to the masses were the books The Silver Bridge from 1970, written by the semi-famous paranormal author Gray Barker, and the significantly more famous book, The Mothman Prophecies itself, written by John Keel in 1975, the latter of which eventually inspired the movie by the same name, starring Richard Gere. I've seen it, it's a top thriller, I enjoyed it, go watch it if you're into this kind of shit. The movie does amazingly manage to briefly mention Indrid Cold, whom I personally think was an alien after working with the Men in Black, and I think that Indrid Cold may have actually existed. I don't think he actually has anything to do with the Mothman. I just think it was coincidentally around the same time that there was contact made. You'll see what I mean coming up here. So then, just who the hell is Indrid Cold? In the book, The Mothman Prophecies, John Keel combined Mothman with Indrid Cold himself. The problem with this being that they aren't the same person, thing, or creature. Indrid, aka the Grinning Man, is reported to be a human-like in appearance cryptid, though he is commonly associated with UFO activity and is sometimes believed to be an alien himself. The descriptions of him are very otherworldly. It is also believed that it is possible he is connected with the Men in Black. In his first sighting, he was described as being over 6 feet tall and wearing a reflective green suit with a black belt. He had a dark complexion and small, beady little eyes set far apart. He was described as not having any nose, ears, hair, or anything else that, a normal fucking person would have. In his second known encounter, his suit was also said to be blue instead of green, but still retained the reflective properties. Other than that, he was described as looking perfectly natural, with slicked back hair, a coat with the top 2 buttons unbuttoned, and having pants lighter than the coat, but still of the same material. Some real GQ shit. He also was described as being quite tan, though not dark-skinned, just tan, and looking like any normal human being. He was John Q. Public, if you will. Just not the Denzel Washington version, obviously, because that guy was black as fuck. Indrid Cold was first seen on October 16th of 1966, when 2 boys, Martin Mouse Lenov and James Jimmy. I'm not sure that you can put Jimmy in quotes when your first name is fucking James. Putting a nickname in quotes should mean that, your fucking nickname is Fireball, or, Skidmark, or some bullshit like that. Fuck's sake. Anyway, we're walking on 4th Street when they saw a surreal figure standing near a fence. As they walked closer, the figure was a tall, bald man wearing a metal green suit. That's right, not a metallic suit that was colored green, but a green suit made out of metal. He was staring straight at them with a huge grin. The idiosyncratic man chased them until they got away from him. UFO sightings were also reported around that area during that time. So, I think Indrid Cold is actually an alien that looks that specific way, possibly. There was an episode of The X-Files that went into something like this a long time ago. That basically there was a race of aliens who all kind of looked like one another, and they were all like 3 to 5 variations of a white person, like a very stock image white person, like a Getty Images stock version of a white guy. It was kind of interesting. Anyway, check out the X-Files sometime. It's my main inspiration for the show. Then, on November 2nd, in 1966, in Parkersburg, West Virginia, around the same area and time as the Mothman came out, Woodrow today, Junior, fuck me, Woodrow Derenberger was driving his way home on Interstate 77 until he heard a crash. Then, an unidentifiable vehicle appeared to land in front of his fucking truck. He described it as an old-fashioned kerosene lamp chimney, flaring at both ends, narrowing to a small neck, and then enlarging in a great bulge in the center. The grinning man came out of the vehicle with a dark tan and walked up to Derenberger and telepathically said his name was Indrid Cold, and he meant no harm. Cold said that he just wanted to know more about the human race, and he would visit Derenberger again. After the encounter, Derenberger stated that Cold revealed he was from the planet Lanulos, in the galaxy of Ganymedes. According to Derenberger, there was also two other grinning men, quote unquote, by the names of Demo Hassan and Carl Ardo. So now that we've cleared the air about Indrid Cold and have established he is in fact not the Mothman, back to the story at fucking hand. As I previously stated, there's only a few credible articles on the subject of Mothman. However, there is a site I found after a lot of digging. It's called themothmanfandom.com. Hey, look at it, it's right there. And someone took the time and effort to cobble together an exhaustive list of every fucking thing to ever have anything to do with Mothman. Like, literally ever. It's roughly 80 plus accounts, whether fully fleshed out or simply a couple of lines with some dramatic embellishment to fill out the required word length for the article. And now it's time for Hoaxes That Hurt. Surprisingly, I have nothing for this portion of the show for this specific cryptid. It seems as though Mothman isn't actually popular enough to hoax. Yeah, you fucking snobs. It's not Chupacabra. It's not Rougarou. It's not the Loch Ness goddamn monster. When will you give Mothman some love? You just want your love. But you all know me. I wouldn't leave you empty-handed. So, instead of hoaxes, here's something interesting to ponder with your brain. During this time period of 1966 through 1967, there were something like 10 to 15 UFO sightings around Point Pleasant. They were numerous enough that Point Pleasant was visited by another kind of cryptid. Bum, bum, bum. The Men in Black. See, there was a general consensus of what people were seeing. A large, generally round, and balloon-like object with lights either inside of it or on the outside of it or around it or both. It reportedly also liked to hang out over the TNT area, which was the decommissioned munitions base in Point Pleasant where the initial sighting of Mothman took place. And there were almost a dozen encounters with the Men in Black during the stream of events. The meetings were usually just the Men in Black interviewing witnesses and then making some sort of vague threat, which were obviously intended to silence the folks making the reports. Obviously, this worked out about as well as a condom made out of tissue paper, because every single fucking encounter made the local paper. Oh my god. Oh, it's true too. You can see fucking, you can see on, like I said, the website, all these different little mini articles. Dude, no one kept this to themselves. Holy shit. Like, the Men in Black made this exponentially worse than they needed to. So there you have it. Mothman, as it were. I struggle writing this portion because the most cryptids out there, their sightings have occurred for decades on and off, and obviously that's not what happened here. Mothman was only actually seen over a span of roughly 2 years, with extremely sporadic sightings since then. The whole harbinger of doom thing really seems to only be ascribed to this character via pop culture, and in all actuality, even the most famous disaster, which was attributed to Mothman sightings, didn't actually have anything to do with Mothman. The Silver Bridge was investigated not long after its collapse, and big fucking surprise, it was found that there was major structural damage along the entire bridge. Turns out that reneging on upkeep on a super major highway is dumb and ends up hurting innocent folks. That part is actually sad, and the Silver Bridge collapse was a very real tragedy in which real people died. But Mothman wasn't actually seen anywhere near it. John Keel connected the two in his book, and once people read the book, they made their own assumptions about its validity as well. So for real, the only actual famous thing to do with Mothman doesn't actually exist. So what the hell do I personally think it is? Now, I know earlier I said that I thought that it was probably a hoax, but if we're going to play devil's advocate here, I think there's three possibilities. The most likely real-world answer is, it was a giant-ass bird. 2, it's a genetically engineered creature, which, even if this is just for fun, I don't think that's the answer. Like the Montauk Island Monster, which was kind of proven via the science of studying how things rot. It was just a dead raccoon. 3, my personal favorite option, it's an actual fey creature. And the reason we never see it is because it can just slip in and out of reality at will. Like any good fairy. Just ask RuPaul. Well, that's all we have time for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed this edition of Knox Talks. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, I do have a Patreon, so if you really want to support myself and the show, that'd be just tits. Till next time, peace, love, and heavy fucking metal, folks. Goodbye!